Hello and welcome to the True North Show. I am your host, Megan North, and I would like to start by thanking the sponsors of the show, Quantum Awakening, Beth Lewis, Anne C. Clark, and my lovely guest who paid to be featured. Today, I am so excited to welcome Jenny White. Jenny is a retired registered nurse living in Southwestern Ontario. She spent over 30 years working in various settings, including hospitals, ICUs, trauma units, surgical floors, as well as public health and long-term care homes. Jenny finished her career as a director of care, managing large nursing departments, as well as a director of nursing services. Having retired, she discovered that she had a brain tumour wrapped around her carotid artery in her brain that was life-threatening and required specialised surgery. After her extensive surgery, she was comatose for days, and when she awoke, she found herself tied to the bed as she had become a disoriented patient, attempting to remove all of the medical tools keeping her alive. Also, Jenny's memories were gone. She did not recognise her husband at the bedside, and she had to relearn how to walk and talk. Over the next year, Jenny had to reinvent herself. Her old hobbies and interests were gone, and she felt vulnerable and lost. That was the turning point. She decided she was interested in writing her story. As she learned the craft of writing by taking online courses during her rehabilitation, a spark was ignited and she began to write. Her returning memories are slow but are impacted by writing, slowly re-emerging from her past. Her experience is vast and she has many stories to tell. She now writes medical thrillers. Her debut novel, The Triggering Scent, it's book 1 of a series, Jenny took her experiences and returning memories and created a character of a nurse working in an ICU. Jenny, welcome to the True North Show. I am so looking forward to our conversation today.
Hello and welcome to the True North Show. I'm your host, Megan North. I am a purpose finder, mental health professional, and guide for those ready to return to who they truly are. Here, we explore what it means to live a life led by purpose, alignment, and deeper inner truth. Through real conversations, powerful reflections, and soul-led strategies, we'll uncover the stories, tools, and insights that help you navigate life's crossroads and find your own true north. So whether you're in the middle of a transformation, seeking clarity, or just curious about what's next, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Your path starts now.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome. So, Jenny's journey from the director of care of waking up in a hospital bed, not remembering her own husband, is one of the most remarkable stories of resilience I've ever heard. Jenny, let's start right at the beginning. So, what was the defining moment that led you to pursue your true passion and purpose? And in particular, why was it nursing?
Actually, I do remember this. So, what really happened is I was on a road trip with my family, and I was probably about 6 or 7 at the time. And we were driving on an interstate, and we came across a very critical collision that had happened. And it had really just happened because people were still responding by trying to get out of their cars. And I remember looking out the back window of the car and seeing people covered in blood and wandering around aimlessly looking for help. And emergency services hadn't gotten there yet. And I remember begging my father at the time, who was driving the car, to please stop so we could help people. Well, he ignored me and continued to drive. And I remember watching as a child out the back window and seeing this chaos and just feeling so helpless that I remember that was the turning point in my life where I thought, I'm going to be either a doctor or a nurse. and I'm going to stop and help people. And I remember telling my mother at the time, and she kind of laughed and she said, well, I don't think you're smart enough to be a doctor, but you could probably be a nurse. And so as I went through life, I kind of always had this thought that, okay, well, I'm not good enough to be a doctor, but I'm good enough to be a nurse. So I'll be a nurse. So that's kind of how it all started.
Mm. And isn't that interesting in the sense of these limiting beliefs that are put upon ourselves when we're younger? You know, that if your mum had maybe said, be whatever you want and you're amazing and you could be a doctor, who knows what would have happened?
Well, exactly. And, I almost resent what she did, but it was common at the time. Like this is back in the 60s.
Yeah.
So like I'm dating myself here, but that was normal in that teachers and nursing were kind of the two professions that women kind of went into.
Yeah.
And it was kind of frowned upon to go beyond that scope. So in a way it was what she had been programmed to believe, and she just put that onto me. So in hindsight, you look at things differently now, but at the time it was quite common.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting too, in the sense of, as you said, like in that time as well, you know, your mum and the things that our parents say when we're very young, they're not necessarily being mean or nasty to us. It's just how they were raised. And so they're doing the right thing and saying the right things to us.
Right. It was culturally appropriate at the time.
Yeah, yeah, so interesting. And and so that journey that you had being a nurse, was it that feeling that you got every time someone would come in or the people that you were caring for? Did you often go back to that young little girl and think this is exactly what I wanted to do?
Absolutely. And there were times as an adult I would stop at car crashes or at, scenes where things were happening where people needed to be helped. And I was often the first one there to help. So that really fed into that whole belief system that this is what I was meant to do.
Yeah, wow, it's really beautiful. So things have obviously changed for you, and I touched on it in our bio, but can you share with us the journey that you've been on over the last few years?
Yeah. So as you said, I was enjoying my retirement. We were having a wonderful time traveling the world and doing the things that we wanted to do. And one day I just wasn't feeling well. And, as a nurse, I kind of knew something was up and I needed to get checked. So I got myself to hospital and I thought I was having a stroke because I had sort of classic stroke symptoms. And, they quickly assessed me and did the scans that needed to be done. And they said, well, the good news is you're not having a stroke, but the bad news is this: you do have a tumor. It's in a bad spot and it's going to kill you. Now, the hospital that I was in, which was a local hospital, had done as much as they could do for me at that point. They
Right.
stabilized me, they put me on some anti-seizure medications. They took my driver's license away right away, and my husband had to come and get me. So from that point on, the journey began because in Ontario, sometimes there's a bit of a wait to get seen by a specialist.
Right.
And I knew, being in the medical profession, that there was a proper course to get to who I needed to see right away. So I got home and I started exploring the College of Physicians and Surgeons across Canada for a specialist in my kind of tumor. Now, because of location is everything, and this was in a particularly bad spot, I needed a specialist who could deal with that part of the brain. And so I found several, went to the family doctor. We together, we actually crafted the referrals and, used the language that you know, incites interest for students. And we started. So the first surgeon, actually, in one city, we had to travel to different cities, but in one city, he said that he wouldn't touch me. He figured that I would probably die on the operating table. And so I didn't hold it against them because I know statistics kind of are the way surgeons live and die.
Yeah.
If they know someone's going to die, they tend to shy away. So that was a little disappointing.
Mm.
Second one that we went to a couple of days later was in another city, and he was a younger fellow. He was kind of at the top of his game in that he'd won quite a few awards. He was kind of a groundbreaker in terms of trying new techniques. And he was willing to take me on as long as I was willing to take the risks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of the problem of being a nurse is you know too much. I
Yeah.
knew exactly what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. And I mean, it wasn't a pretty picture. But my choice was do nothing and die, or take a chance and possibly die.
Yeah.
So it didn't take long to make that decision. We signed the consent that day. We went and we had all of the pre-op stuff that you needed to have. And then I was put on an emergency cancellation list so that the first available OR that came up where he wasn't already in surgery, he would do my surgery. It was only a couple of weeks because it was over Christmas, actually, which is a terrible time for this to happen. And
Yeah.
I couldn't enjoy Christmas with my family because all I could think of is, well, this is probably my last Christmas.
Yeah.
And, the family were struggling with this life-changing fact that this might be it for me.
Yeah.
And so we had, instead of, singing Christmas carols, we were having discussions about what if and what do you want? And, and I wrote my obituary and those kinds of things. And when I had my cell phone with me 24/7, I was just waiting for the call, can you be here in a couple of hours? Well, it was excruciating because every time the phone rang, your heart skipped a beat and you just were on constant edge.
Mm.
Anyway, the surgery happened, which was a good thing. And I was alive, but I was in a coma. Now, I didn't know about the coma until afterwards, obviously.
Mm.
But when I woke up, I was tied to the bed because I'd become the patient from hell. And we have a saying, that nurses make the worst patients. I kept it alive. I kept the myth alive. I was difficult. And part of it was I was probably just so disoriented and confused, and, my brain was swelling, and it made sense, but it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So when I woke up and I realized I didn't recognize the guy at the end of the bed, I couldn't speak. They weren't understanding me, and I thought I was being very clear.
Mm.
And the fact that they tried to get me up walking because I'd been in bed too long, and I couldn't walk. Something we take for granted that we do automatically, I couldn't do it.
Mm.
That's when I knew I had a big problem.
Mm.
It was like, Houston, we have a problem here. And I knew that things were completely different going forward.
Yeah. And was there any, I mean, you'd lost your memory, but was there any, do you think that there was an unconscious or subconscious piece of you that thought, actually, I know that this is a real issue because I remember somehow being a nurse, and if I was on the other side, I would be looking at this really worried?
Well, it's funny. I distinctly remember waking up sort of in my nurse brain going, okay, yeah, I know where I am. I'm in an intensive care unit. I recognize the smells. I recognize the sounds.
Yep.
I recognize the equipment. So that part of me was not the least bit worried. It was like the Jennifer side of my brain had gone on vacation and there was just like nothing there.
Right.
So yes, the nurse in me was concerned because of what was happening, but the Jennifer part of my brain was gone, and I just wasn't functioning as my old self at all.
Wow, that must have been so confronting. Just so, like, there's so many things around that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was a shock. It was a shock. I knew again, the nurse in me knew that there could very well be problems.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what I was expecting, but I knew there would probably be challenges.
Yeah.
And, it was just, okay, I'm in a pickle here. I'm going to have to figure something out.
Yeah. And so from the conversations that we've already had, and my audience already know that I'm a very spiritual person. So I'm curious to know if you believe that the brain tumor and then what transpired afterwards, do you think that that was supposed to happen to then put you on a new path?
Well, it's interesting you say that because there's one thing that I learned through this experience, and that is that my body is just a package and that my spirit is what continued on. So the package got fixed, but the spirit kind of was going, okay, you've got a whole new reset here. Do something different. And when I talked to the universe and my God, and I said, what was this all about?
Yeah.
The message I kept hearing back was, you weren't paying attention and you're not done yet. And I thought, okay, I can live with that.
Yeah.
You got to help me a little bit here.
Isn't that interesting? And so when you heard that message, like, can you then think back, or I don't know, do you have any memories of the nudges that were happening in your life to take you up to that point? No.
No, not specifically. No, it was like I had to get hit over the head with a hammer just to kind of get me going on a different path, which is really quite interesting.
Very interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And I think that often
Yeah.
happens, right? Like the universe will be very gentle and it'll just be tapping you on the shoulder. And then if you're not listening, it starts to nudge you a little bit more and then really starts to nudge you. And if you're really not getting it, something dramatic really happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Oh my goodness. It's just extraordinary. Really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And so there's been such a journey on so many aspects and different levels for you of the recovery that you've been on. So what about, your relationship with your husband? He must be so patient and an incredibly amazing man to have been on this journey with you, but then your family and friends as well.
Well, certainly my husband has been. He's been great. He's helped me through numerous different challenges over the course of our relationship. I feel so bad for him because I broke his heart, when I didn't recognize
Yeah.
him at the bed, and it profoundly changed him.
Mm.
He never stopped caring. He never stopped being there for me. But I know he struggles with a 30-year marriage that I don't remember.
Yeah.
And bits and pieces come back, but in no particular order, and something will trigger a memory. For example, about a month ago, we went to a family wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew all the family members. I don't remember specifics about them, but I kind of recognize them as people I should know. So
Yeah.
I almost had to reintroduce myself to people. And then after the wedding was over and we were driving home, I realized I couldn't remember my wedding. And so that just broke my heart. And I had, my husband and I, we curled up in a ball together, and he just walked me through what happened at our wedding, what I was wearing, who was there, what we ate. I
Yeah.
mean, it was just kind of bizarre, but
Yeah.
it didn't really trigger any memories for me.
Yeah. And two things on that. So I think probably, and you're very tuned into from a spiritual and soul level point of view. So people, when you meet them, as you said, you kind of recognize them, but I guess from an energy point of view, you would start to feel that connection, right? That, okay, this person feels familiar to me, so I'm going to lean in and have a conversation with them.
Yes, and I end up faking a lot. Like I can't remember names. I end up faking, sort of starting the conversation as if, everything's fine.
Yeah,
And I pick up on the clues of what they say to me and start thinking, okay, did that happen? Who was this? And what
yeah,
was I doing?
yeah,
When
yeah,
did that happen?
yeah.
So it's scary and it's unnerving and it makes you feel really vulnerable.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like you've got a real life mystery novel going on in your life, like you're living it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is. And you never quite know what's coming next.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing about your husband as well, I mean, this is a great opportunity for you two to renew your vows and have a big wedding and a party, create a new wedding memory.
It's true. Although, because my personality has changed somewhat, we're still navigating,
Yeah,
the whole relationship. We basically have started from scratch
yeah,
because I couldn't remember. We kind of came to the conclusion, well, we have a choice here. We can either split and go our separate ways,
yeah.
because what brought us together is no longer there,
Mm,
or we try this, and that's just starting from scratch, start the dating, start pretending like we're just getting to know each other, which is fine for me,
yeah,
but I think it's taking a toll on him. So time will tell, but I
yeah,
mean, we're still together, we're still trying,
yeah,
we're, getting therapy, and we're just one day at a time, take it slow,
yeah.
and just go from there.
Yeah, yeah, it's really beautiful. I love that. I love that. I love the dating. Like, it's all the things that after a while, people are like, oh, we really should start dating again. So it's an opportunity for you and him to, start over with that. Yeah, beautiful.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
mental health and well-being. Obviously, I would imagine from your point of view of when you were nursing that that was a part of your life that would have been very important anyway. But has that, from what you can remember, has that shifted now? Like, is your mental health and well-being got a different aspect in your life? Do you do different things? What does it mean for you now?
I think it's definitely different than it was. Because of my brain surgery, I do have some depression, which I've had to learn to navigate with and get some medication for and that kind of thing. And that's different.
Yeah,
I have challenges with speech some days. Today's a pretty good day. I'm talking pretty normally. And there are days when my words are mixed up or my thoughts are scrambled.
yeah,
So I do have days like that. And in terms of mental health, I think, I'm getting sort of my self esteem from my writing right now because it's something tangible, it's
mm,
something concrete,
yeah,
it's something new. I did take some courses online that were self paced so I could navigate around my exhaustion and
mhm,
my rehab program.
yeah,
And by learning new things, I think that helped
mm,
rewire my brain a little bit. And when I was working with my speech pathologist, he had said to me, since we're having still struggles getting you to actually be able to say words, try writing things down. And that was successful in that the words I was putting on paper made sense and it was the word I wanted to be there. So that's how I ended up being able to communicate with people until I was able to get the brain firing in a way that I could speak again. So
mm,
that was incredibly frustrating because I was used to talking. I mean, as a nurse, you talk for a living.
mm,
You're talking to patients, you're talking to families, you're talking to colleagues and staff. And when you can't share what you're thinking or what you need,
yeah.
it's an incredibly limiting and
Yeah.
frustrating experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I think I would imagine for you then mental health is probably even just the bare basics of making sure that you're resting, you're getting enough rest, making sure that you're out and about and
Yes.
getting some fresh air and time with
Yes.
yourself, but then time with others.
Yes. And what I definitely have focused on self-care. because when I realized I had a brain tumor, that was like, okay, this is going to be tough. This
Yeah.
is going to be prolonged. So I had kind of accepted that. But I do take care of myself now. When I'm tired, I go and I lie down and I might sleep for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I do try and get out every day, and I live in a beautiful property where I've got land I can go walk on and hang out with the birds and the rabbits. And, I find that very healing.
Yeah.
So certainly my mental health has taken a hit. There's no doubt about it. I think if anybody said, who had lost memory, that they weren't dumbfounded and traumatized by it, would be lying.
Yeah.
I've never experienced this before, obviously, and it's been a profound journey. It really has.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting from a mental health and well-being point of view. A lot of people, I think, get overwhelmed with looking at social media and thinking, I should be meditating for an hour and I should be. Whereas actually the bare basics, I actually think, taking 5 minutes of just sitting in quiet or in the sun or with your feet on the ground or having a nap, that to me is sometimes the most beneficial mental health practices that we can have anyway.
Absolutely. And, when I realized that I had a clean slate and I could do anything, I actually gave myself permission to just dream like a kid.
Yeah.
When you think about it, when we're kids, what do kids do? They make up adventures, they create stories, they create imaginary friends. What do I want to be when I grow up? And I thought to myself, this is really interesting. I have a complete clean slate here. I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
What appeals to me? So when I was able to start writing, and it was just simple stuff. I mean, it was really simple stuff. It was like writing a sentence, and that was like a major accomplishment.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, this is probably what I should be focusing on, because I had no interest in writing prior to this. And it's like they were in my brain playing around, and some things got turned off, some things got turned on. So clearly this is the path I should be on.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. Yeah.
Wow, that's isn't it? It's just fascinating, isn't it? It's just, even you must think, even with your nurse's brain, thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm experiencing this.
Yeah. I mean, it's very scary, and it's hard to explain to people. And, the other thing that I want to share is, I look fairly normal, right? But there's still a lot going on inside that's broken. And so when people say, oh, you look great, you look fabulous, oh, you recovered really well. Well, thank you, but not quite.
Yeah.
So yes, I've accomplished things, but I've still got years of work ahead of me in terms of coming to terms with life in general. I mean, my kids, I don't remember their childhoods. And so when I'm talking to my kids now, I'm talking to them like friend to friend as opposed to parent to child.
Yeah.
It's a really different dynamic. And they've noticed it, and, they've commented on it. And perfect example, one of my boys came and, spent some time with us, and I couldn't remember what what vegetables he liked, because he's very picky. And he looked at me and he goes, Mom, you should know this. It's like, no, sorry. You're
Yeah.
going to have to walk me through it again, because I have no recall of what vegetables you'll eat.
Yeah. It's just
So,
like a whole rediscovering of everything, isn't it? Yeah.
it is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And I could imagine also that, for you, it's overwhelming enough for you, but then with people saying, oh, you look great, you've recovered, I think often people don't want to go down that rabbit hole of really asking what's going on, because it's just too much, not very many of us would have experienced it, and it's too hard to comprehend.
Yeah. And like you said, you go down a black hole. But, I'm trying to stay positive. Every day I find something that I'm successful at, and some days are good and some days are not good. And I accept that and I acknowledge it. And as long as I don't give up, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That mindset, right? You wake up and you decide, I love also that you just said that too, is that, what have you achieved for the day or what have you learned? We when we haven't been through this, we often take that for granted. And so, it's those simple things too that actually are probably dropping in each day for you, that you're reflecting on where you were yesterday to today, and oh wow, I've learned this today, not taking it for granted.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons that I want to share my story with people is not for people to feel sorry for me, because there's no need to feel sorry for me. It's more to just share the journey, that change is possible, that reinvention is possible,
Yeah,
and that we actually have more control in our lives than we think we do.
yeah,
So when you're offered a clean slate where you can do anything and give back any way that you want to, you have to be grateful that you're alive. You have to be grateful that you have the opportunity and the skills to figure it out, right?
mm,
My mind is still working, so that's a good thing,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
and I don't take that for granted.
yeah,
I'm blessed to wake up every day, and I talk to the universe and I say, thank you for giving me another day.
yeah,
Let's make it a great one. And I just put together a plan that has me focus on me and
mm,
how I can give back.
yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It's really special.
You're welcome.
And so, what about grounding? Have you got any grounding practices? Have you got things that you do that you just think, oh my gosh, like my head is literally in the clouds. I need to bring myself back here to earth?
Well, I do actually try practicing gratitude every day. And that was one of the things that, I had a lot of time on my hand there for, for a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
And so, because my brain was actually functioning and I could read and I could explore on the web, I looked around and I looked at a lot of different things and I read some books on empowerment and sort of the laws of the universe and that kind of thing. And so I came to realize, that's where I really came to realize that I was a spiritual being having a human experience, and therefore the universe could help me do whatever I wanted.
yeah,
And so I've kind of internalized that into being grateful every morning and just sort of listing a few things about gratitude. In my previous life, I took it for granted, I think, because I don't remember specifically doing that,
yeah,
but I found it helpful. So
yeah,
in terms of grounding, that works for me. And I make sure that I'm sitting by a window that's got beautiful views and I'm watching the birds and the trees and and just taking in the simple stuff
yeah,
that is really miracles in itself, right?
yeah, yeah. And often the things that we forget about when we get in our own heads about other things is that it's, if you bring it back to the simplicity of just being grateful for having a roof over your head and your family around you, actually at the end of the day, that's the
Yeah,
most important thing. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So let's talk about the book. So the triggering
Okay.
scent. So
Yes.
I mean, and you and I touched on this when we met originally, and I thought, and I did ask you this, but I would have thought that automatically people would write a biography, right? An autobiography of what's happened and your journey. So I'm curious as to why you chose this type of writing. What's the what's the thinking around that?
Well, you'll laugh at this because it did start out kind of as an autobiography, and I showed, first couple of chapters to my spouse, and he looked at it, he goes, "Nobody wants to read this." And I thought, "Oh, okay. Well, I did it more to just explore and express my feelings. It was kind of a journey of healing for me.
Yes.
Um, so, like I said, I went back and um, I took some courses to kind of get a handle on the craft of writing, because I wasn't a writer. I wrote academic papers, but they're completely different than
Yeah.
fiction. So I had to learn.
Yeah.
So that helped. And as I was kind of going through that, I was thinking, okay, well, they tell you that you should write about something you know. So I thought, okay, what do I know? Well, I have 30 plus years as a nurse, and I know what it's like to be a brain tumor patient. That's what I'm going to write about. So I created a character who is a nurse, and she's in her 30s. I'm in my 60s, so a little different there. And I gave her a brain tumor, and she had surgery. Now, her outcomes were not as good as mine, but she did share some of the same characteristics that I had, which were things like memory loss and not recognizing people and having speech difficulties. And I had her go back to work after about a year into an ICU environment. Now, I had worked in an ICU trauma unit, and I loved it. And I loved it for a couple of reasons. One was you had to know what you were doing. You had to have extra education. You had to be on top of your game all the time.
Yeah.
And it was a fast-paced, stressful, complicated place to work. But I loved it because it was a challenge.
Yeah.
So I put her back into an ICU. And with the challenges that I gave her, she struggled to go back to work for obvious reasons.
Yes.
And the triggering scent, one thing I noticed with my brain surgery is my sense of smell became much more acute. So I could smell something being cooked. I couldn't identify what it was, but I knew it was something that I liked. So I took that issue and I created a scenario where she has a smell that triggers her memory. And then she realizes that the scent belongs to the neurosurgeon who messed up her surgery. And the conflict, yeah, the conflict arises because she realizes he's now working in her hospital. She had her surgery in a different city. He's transferred to her hospital and is now working side by side. And she has an ethical dilemma. How am I going to stop him from hurting other people? And am I willing to risk my nursing license to do it? And so that's where the book sort of comes together and creates a medical thriller.
Wow, sounds incredible, just amazing. And oh my gosh, I love this. I love this. And so it's book one of a series. So is she going to be
Yes.
your constant character through the book series?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the plan. I'm going to move her into different healthcare environments. So the first one, she's in an ICU, and then she realizes she's putting her patients at risk, and she really shouldn't be nursing there.
Yeah.
So she moves into administration, and she runs a nursing department in a long-term care home or a nursing home.
Yeah.
And so what I did, because I have that history, I took the stories that kind of came back to me and I put them into the book. So it's a bit of real life and it's a bit of fantasy and it's a bit of horror, all kind of wrapped up into what could possibly go wrong in a nursing home. So, yeah.
Wow. And so book two, is that still are you still writing that, or are you close to publishing?
I'm close to publishing. I signed off on it just the other day. So it's going into pre-production. So it will be out in a few months, sort of towards the end of the summer. Yeah.
Fantastic. Wow, that's amazing. And so I would imagine too that you've probably got quite a lot of people that you can collaborate with in relation to more stories that other people have experienced that you may not have experienced. So you've got, I don't know, 100 books that you could potentially be writing here.
Yeah, potentially. I don't think it will be 100, but as long as I'm having fun, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to win a Pulitzer Prize or anything like that. Not a chance.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm doing it to entertain. I'm doing it to actually raise some issues about what's happening in healthcare right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what country you're in. they're all facing similar challenges, things like budgets and lack of staffing and staff burnout and violence in the workplace and all kinds of things. So all of those are added to these books to kind of give it a real sense of realism, but to also challenge the readers to go, oh my God, I didn't know that happened.
Mm, yeah.
Maybe we should do something about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, the whole writing for you and this journey is like, it's got so many pillars to it, hasn't it? Because it's helping you with your
Yeah.
memory. It's helping you have fun
Yes.
and to play. It's a
Yeah.
healing journey for you as well. But then you're also inspiring people, giving them different uh things to look at and think about, and different
Yeah.
perspectives as well.
But I'd also like to branch out into being like an inspirational speaker
Mm,
because I kind of look at myself as the perfect example of, going from coma to an author, a published author.
yeah.
So, how does that happen, right? And how can that impact other people? And, I'm certainly willing to share the story, share the pain, share the journey, share the accomplishments and the strategies that I use. And who knows? I kind of have this belief that if I make a bit more, I can give a little bit more.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's that balance there, right?
yeah,
So,
definitely. That's really beautiful. And so, what have you learned about yourself through the process of writing and publishing your first book?
well, I've learned I don't have a lot of patience, which is the opposite of what I used to be. Um, I like things to happen quickly, and in the publishing world, that just does not happen. I mean, things feel like they go at a snail's pace, and I'm very much, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And so I find that a bit frustrating. But I think overall, I'm proud of the courage that I've had to
Mm,
try something so out of my wheelhouse. Um, to be willing to put myself out there. There's going to be people who hate what I do, and that's okay. I don't really care.
yeah,
I mean, I'm here for a purpose. The children's books that I write are to help kids learn to read and to bond with parents and caregivers. I think that's huge.
yeah,
And I think the novels are just a way of, sharing fun.
mm,
Really, books are to entertain,
yes,
fiction anyway.
yeah.
So I think this would be entertaining for people.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also, I would imagine, I can imagine all your guides and spirit guides and all your angels all celebrating, going, "Yes, she's finally got it. We don't need another baseball bat because she's being
Yeah. No.
inspired and she's having fun and she's being grateful and yay."
I realized it took a team to keep me going.
Yeah,
Clearly, it was way beyond my capacity.
yeah,
Even though I had a brilliant surgeon and a brilliant team of people working with him, they were fixing a package. It was my spirit that kind of came alive after this. And I think you're right. I think the angels or whoever's up there looking after me had a plan
yeah,
and they felt I had more to offer. And so they kind of pushed me on a path that I wasn't expecting or really wanting to go on.
yeah.
But I came out of it the other side and I think I'm a better person for it.
Mm, yeah, it's really beautiful, beautiful. And you touched on there just before about the children's book. So is that something else that you've been doing as well as writing your thrillers?
I have. And actually, I started with the children's books because when I was lying in bed creating those stories in my head, my little dog, Molson, was beside me. And I thought to myself, okay, if I was 5, I'd probably be going out and playing with Molson and coming up with an adventure. So I couldn't remember my childhood. So I thought, okay, well, what would a 5-year-old be doing? Let's go to the zoo. And that's a really good example is I thought, okay, let's go to the zoo. And then I started thinking, okay, what animals would be in the zoo? And nothing was coming to me. And I thought, oh, this is bad. So I went online and I put in zoo And of course, all the pictures of the animals came up. And so I'm looking, going, okay, that might be an elephant. And then I'd look down, yep, elephant and lion. And so it was like I reprogrammed myself based on a little bit of fantasy combined with hardcore facts. And I just kind of rebuilt things from there. So I created and trademarked the Molson and Jenny Adventure series. And because I'm in Canada, I wrote 12 books in English and in French so that they can go to both sets of schools. And they're designed for like 6 to 8-year-olds to get them reading. And yeah, that's what I did.
Just incredible. I love it. You'll have to put on your travel adventures coming to Australia and going to the Taronga Zoo, because it's like the most beautiful zoo that we've got here in Sydney, and the view from the zoo is incredible. So you'll have to put that on your list of travels. Yeah.
Australia and New Zealand are definitely on the list.
Fantastic. Great. Well, you have to make sure that you tell me when you're coming, because we can catch up. And
yeah, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So can you believe that we've actually only got a couple of minutes left already?
Yes, I can. I told you I could talk.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I love to ask all of my guests before we finish our conversation. So this is going to be specific to the journey that you've just been on now, right? So what's one lesson or truth that you've learned on your journey that you wish you had known earlier?
Gosh. Well, I guess I would say that it's okay to challenge the paradigms that we're taught. You know, I kind of come to this with a very open mind. And I think as a society, we're kind of taught, okay, the dreaming starts or stops about kindergarten, right? Because now you got to learn your ABCs and your numbers and this and that. And then as you go through the school system, the ability to dream and create adventures kind of leaves us at the time, because we're taught, no, you must focus on this now. Yeah. And then you get into high school. What would you like to be when you grow up? And then you go down a path towards that goal.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay to challenge paradigms and say, I don't care what anybody else thinks. What's going to work for me?
Yeah. And that ties in so beautifully with the comment and the thing that we were talking about at the beginning about, like how your mum said, well, you're not smart enough to be a doctor. You'll have to, you can be a nurse. And that just ties in exactly what we've talked about through this whole conversation.
Absolutely.
It's really beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Jenny, your story is incredible. And I really feel blessed to just be sitting with you and just listening to you speak. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And thank you for the opportunity. I hope this reaches people who are struggling, that they know that there is light at the end of the tunnel and you can do anything you want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of The True North Show. I hope today's conversation brought you closer to your own sense of purpose and reminded you of the power you hold within. If this resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who's also walking the path of becoming. To continue the journey, head over to megannorth.com. You'll find resources, support, and ways to work with me one-on-one. Until next time, keep trusting yourself, following your intuition, and taking one aligned step at a time. Your true north is never lost. It's just waiting for you to come home.